Hello friends, this is Raj Sastry from Raj Option Trading. Today is July 18, 2021. I want to cover a stock called Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR. It's into software infrastructure. Let's jump in. This company is a very good security company. It works with government officials and also commercial sector. So with that, let's jump in and see if this company is worth investing. So, what is Palantir Technologies? They help people to do real-time decisions. A lot of the institutions have got a lot of data. Many times, this data is not used properly, and it's also always fragmented and siloed. So this is why Palantir can really help to really connect the data and make the important decisions. All the data that you have is of no use if you cannot make any decisions. That's where this company comes in. It's a very interesting play here. And Palantir will help the organizations to integrate the data and their decisions and their operations in one platform. So I think that's the value case here. It's a great company. They're trying to really do the right thing here. And what's at stake? It's founded with a mission that we got to look at privacy and civil liberties while using the data. And this company also does a lot of counterterrorism, and it works with a lot of these government officials. So this is where there is some understanding or misunderstanding about this company, that it's very secretive. It works with the government officials, and it might be evil. So that's the conception folks have. It may be true to some extent, but this company is now trying to change the image, also work with the commercial sector, with the big banks and big organizations, and help them in addition to helping the government officials with the counterterrorism. So if you look at the CEO here, Mr. Alex Karp, he's got 262 ratings here, and 85% of employees approve the CEO. That's a very good rating here. It's a 4.2 out of 5. And also folks who work there, they recommend a friend to work there, which is a great story. So this is from glassdoor.com. CEO is very vocal and he is very flamboyant. So it's he's out there. So he's not a shy type of person. So with that, if you look a little more into Palantir and what are their products here, they got three main category of product. One is Palantir Gotham. So it integrates, manages, and secures all of the enterprise data. So they really work with the organizations and look at the data, whether it's structured or unstructured. It could be your emails, documents, images. They really help to secure and analyze the data and look for any anomalies and threats. And then they got Palantir Foundry. This is the data integration, which is seminal to integrate all the data and bust the silos. And it really encodes the experience in an open, interoperable, and extensible platform. And last but not least is really their SaaS application. This will really combine power of Foundry and power of Gotham into one SaaS platform, and it really delivers this experience and this intelligence to anybody who wants to use it. So this is where three product lines, and I think they're doing pretty well with all these three product lines. And they were very big into Gotham in the beginning. They worked with the government officials. Now they're going into Foundry and Apollo, and also work with the banks and U.S. companies and non-U.S. companies. So with that, if you look at Palantir here, if you know Palantir, they're into large defense and commercial type, contracts. They work with the government officials, the Navy, U.S. Army, CIA, you name it. And off late, they're also working with the big companies like IBM, Amazon, Airbus, and so on and so forth. And they got three product lines like we talked about. Palantir Gotham, it's into counterterrorism in the United States. And they also got, Gotham is used for cyber analytics, as you can see here. And they also have Foundry, which is used by clients like Morgan Stanley, Merck, and so on and so forth. So as you see here, they're working with the 3M to expand relationship, and they're working with Akin Gump, working with multiple partners as you can see here. And also they're working with the California to really help with the grid situation, electric grid situation in California. And they worked with Fujitsu, signed a 8 million contract. It's a, I think overall it's a good story here. They're trying to do the right thing here. So let's go a little bit into this company, Palantir Technologies. They build, deploy software platforms for the intelligence community, work with the United States government around counterterrorism, and off late they're also working with the real organizations in the commercial sector. They started pretty strong with the government, US government, and now they're diversifying into big companies like IBM, Morgan Stanley, 3M, and whatnot. Stock price is $21 and market cap is $40 billion. As you look at the stock chart here, they did really well out of the gate. They had the IPO, stock went up all-time high back in 2021 January or February, then started drifting. As you can see here. Right now they're rather into a pretty in a situation where it's into a $20 type range here, and you could see that could be a nice support level for it to bounce back. So overall I feel like his stock has done very nicely back in all the way to 2021 February. Now it's trying to search for direction here, what way to go, and we'll go into analysis and see is it really worth buying at this time, or should we be waiting. And if you look at the CEO here, Mr. Karp is one of the co-founders, and there's also Peter Thiel, if you know him, one of the famous venture capitalists. He's also involved in this company, and he has served as CEO for most of the time, and he's got good credentials, BA from Haverford, and also he had done JD from Stanford. He has a PhD also. And from a news perspective, as you can see here, Palantir revenue growth needs to accelerate. Folks want revenue growth to accelerate here. They're still not making money in the sense profit. They're still showing their losses. And this company is really not shy to make statements. They made a statement saying they accept Bitcoin payments. They could invest in cryptocurrency. As you can see here, they're trying to steal a page from Elon Musk's flamboyant mode here, and they're making some statements like this, which will grab some attention in the public market. And this is also one of the top picks, as you can see here in Yahoo Finance Gen Z. And we stand by our decision. I think this company here, Franklin Templeton, they really like this company, and folks are wondering if it's a good company to buy. One of the famous stocks in the Reddit, it's one of the meme stock, goes up and down, and it's becoming a more important global software companies, as you can see here. And also a news here that Cathy Wood sells 18.7 million in Palantir shares. So overall, as you can see here, I think you can clearly see by looking at the chart and looking at the news, folks are wondering, is the bad days over for this company? Can it make a comeback? That's what goes through your mind as you look at this chart. Now let's go into Palantir and its competitors. As you look through any company, you got to look at the competitors. These may not be direct competitors, but these are the companies in the data and analytics area, and some of these companies really compete with Palantir also. As you look through this here, what I've done is I've looked at a 6-month performance. Company at the top, Talend, has done nicely in 6 months, and from there it's in the descending order. And I like many of these companies, especially if you look at the companies with a very nice sales growth. For example, WK, 18% sales growth in 5 years, 14% in quarter over quarter, 22%, 1 year, 14%, quarter over quarter, 22%. And if you look at Domo, same story, nice sales growth here. And Datadog, again, great company here. And MongoDB is one of the great companies, still small cap, not medium cap. And then you got Elastic, again, a great company. And we got our company here, Palantir. Palantir is a great company, $21 stock, $40 billion market cap, and stock has not done well this year. As you can see here, last 6 months it's lost 17% when it comes to performance, and it's 53% off from 52-week high. So as you look through this company here, they got nice gross margin, 70%. Net margin is still negative. Company is still losing money, as you can see here. They don't have too much debt. It's manageable, zero point 0.3 debt to equity ratio. And as you can see here, RSI is pretty low. That tells you it's okay to enter at this time. It's oversold at this time. And short float is not much. Price to sales ratio is 33. That tells you stock is a little bit expensive from a price to sales valuation perspective, but not to worry. If you compare it to other companies like Snowflak, it's really cheap. So that way I'm not too much worried about the valuation here, 33. But if you generally look at its peers, it's a little high. That's one thing to notice here. But we do have Snowflak and even Datadog. They got valuations even more than Palantir. So let's go into a little more detail. If you look at quick statistics about this company, looks like it's back in April. It got initiated by Wolf Research here. Peer perform $23 target, and right now stock is around 21. And if you look at the earnings per share here, they are losing money. They're not showing profit. I think they have to do this because it's one of the, they got a lot of R&D going on. And typically they have to spend a lot of money on their platform because their platform is used by governments and big companies. So they got to make sure it's very secure and cutting edge when it comes to performance and security. And from a sales perspective, I like this sales growth here. Nice sales growth here. It's great to see, companies really growing their top line. It's always good to see that. From a shares outstanding perspective, it's a little higher, but nothing to alarm. It's pretty natural here, pretty normal. And if you look at the performance here, $21 stock, $40 billion market cap. They got $1.2 billion in sales in trailing 12 months and nice gross margin, negative net margin. And as you see here, they're not done much. They are down from 52-week high, down for 6 months, 3 months, all the way to 1 day. So you would wonder at this point, is it good to buy at this time or should I wait? We'll jump into the analysis to find out. And if you look at the Palantir from a little bit longer term fundamental perspective, stock is very nicely traded, as you can see here. $19 million shares traded on Friday and $51 million shares traded in last 3 months. So stock is very liquid. You can trade in and out pretty quickly. They got a lot of cash, as you can see here, $2.3 billion cash. Little bit debt, but not too much. And company is really expecting to grow 43% next year. That's a good growth clip here. And they got a lot of free cash flow. They're spending a ton of money in the R&D, which is always good. And stock is below 20-day moving average. It's also below its 50-day moving average by 8%. It's below 120-day moving average, below 200-day moving average. So by looking at this, you would see from a moving average perspective, if you're a technical analysis person, it's clearly bearish because it is below its 200-day moving average also. And from a return on asset perspective, it's negative. They do have positive operating cash flow. That's a good news. Company is not making money. Earnings per share is negative right now. So let's go into a little more detail. By looking at this, I like their, the way they're spending on the R&D, their free cash flow. Those are good, good things, and they also have positive operating cash flow. So those are the good things, and also I like their gross margin, which is 70%. And as you look at the fundamentals here, stock price is $21, as you can see here. Market cap is 40 billion. And if the way to read this chart is, I got quarters here back in 9/30/2020. Then we got 12/31, 3/31. These are the quarterly quarter end dates for this company. And as you look at the market cap, clearly company has done nicely. Back in September last year, $16 billion market cap. Now back in 12/31, December 2020, $42 billion market cap, and back in March 43. Now back to $40 billion. So it's a pretty steady clip. They've done very nicely back in 2020. Now it's kind of searching for direction at this time. From a sales perspective, sales is growing pretty nicely, as you can see here. And stock price perspective, it's done nicely all the way from $9.50 to 23 back in March, and now it's 21. And company is really showing some revenue surprise to Wall Street. It was $10 million, $21 million, $8 million. So there is some positive revenue surprise. But as you can see here, the revenue surprise, it went very nicely back in 12/31. Stock shot up, as you can see here. Now it's a little bit less. So that's why market is also wondering what's going on here. And they're also surprising Wall Street. They surprised Wall Street 2 times the positive earnings per share surprise. And back in 3/31, it's pretty much in line. So they did not surprise the Wall Street. They got a lot of cash, $2.3 billion cash, pretty stable here. We don't need to worry about company going out of business anytime soon. They have some debt, pretty much manageable, not too bad at all. Nice operating cash flow. They turned operating cash positive and also free cash positive, as you can see here. Very nice gross margin. I like this gross margin. They are pretty consistent, and they improved their gross margin all the way from from September to December. And from a gross margin perspective, from a operating margin and net margin perspective, they're still negative. So which is okay for these type of companies. They have to invest heavily into their technology. They are spending pretty nicely in the R&D. I like the company spending a lot of money into R&D. That makes them very competitive in the market. And price to sales ratio perspective, I think they are kind of getting better. It was 40 before, 36. It's getting better. It's still pricey from a valuation perspective, but I think it's okay now. And now let's look at the performance of this company. If you look at yearly performance back in 2020, they did very nicely, 147.89%. And in 2021, companies really trying to search for direction here. It's down 9.26% so far in 2021. If you look at the monthly performance here, company became IPO back in October. They don't have full 1 year history yet. But as you see here, company did very well out of the gate and dropped, went up, dropped continuously here for 4 months or so, went up and dropped. And this is also one of those meme stocks. Reddit, Wall Street Bets team, they like to manipulate this stock very nicely. And if you look at the weekly performance here, companies really, up and down, as you can see here, came down, went up, down, up. It's a pattern here. Last 4 weeks or 3 weeks or so, it's down, and it's time for this company to settle down a little bit and change the course and move up slowly. And if you look at the daily performance here, a couple of days down, up and down all the way, a couple of days, up and down. So it's really repeating pattern here. The moment you see the stock is down for a couple of days continuously, you could really slowly buy some and hold it. And if you look at the technical analysis here, we got 1 year, 1 day chart here. Stock, as you see here, stock chart, it went up, came down, went all the way up. This could be the Reddit Wall Street Bets type play here. Earnings announcement, stock came down. Earnings again, stock went up a little bit, then came down. We got one more earnings coming up a bit later. And as you look at the RSI here, Relative Strength Index, it's right now it's around 43 or so, and it tells you At this time, you got to, it's kind of stabilizing. I think it's trying to go up now slowly. Right now it's flatlining, but I can see from here it can try to make its way up. As you look through here, they got very low RSI back here, went up, now it came down, slowly trying to search for the direction. But if you squint, I think we can see it's flat line. Maybe it's trying to make its way up slowly. And if you look at the implied wall, implied wall and historic wall are pretty much the same. IV percentile is 33. It's pretty low, but not too low. That's why I would not buy call options here. You got to be careful. Stocks like this, when they trade sideways, folks who bought the call option will kind of lose money. So I would not buy call option. I would buy the stock on the down days and accumulate slowly. From a DMI perspective, directional indicator, I would say DMI is a great indicator. You got to make sure at least the blue line is trending up and the red line is trending down. So that's a positive bullish indicator. But in this case, you see a red line is trending up and a blue line is trending down. That's a bearish indicator. Right now, chart is ugly from a DMI perspective. It's bearish, and the distance between the red line and the blue line is pretty significant. Right now it's in the bearish market territory. And if you look at the moving average on the balance volume, pretty stable here, nothing to worry about. So I think there is a chance that this can pick up and go. And if you look at the check-in money flow, smart money is flowing out of the market. You have seen Cathay Wood sold some of these shares of Palantir. So smart money is clearly, going out of the stock here. It happened back over here, as you can see here. Then it kind of picked up. So you could argue, it might go down a little bit before it picks up the pace again. We got one more technical analysis chart here. As you scan through this here, kind of tells you, how the stock is doing. We got multiple moving averages here. And one thing I want to highlight here is really stochastic. Typically, slow stochastic is a good indicator. And here, as you look through here, we got the %K line, which is this blue line. And we got %D line, which is the red line. So as you scan through this slowly, you could see the blue line is trying to cross over red line. So that's a positive indicator. From a stochastic perspective, I could see a small turnaround in the play. The moment this crosses over, that's going to be a bullish crossover. And from a MACD perspective, as you can clearly see here, right now the oscillator is trying to I think it was bright red before. Now it's trying to stabilize as we speak here. So that's a positive sign. It's really trying to stabilize. If you see more bright red lines here, that could be a little bit bearish indication. But we got a little bit better little better indication here that this may turn around. And from a TTM perspective, John Carter's TTM wave perspective, as you see here, we see a small yellow candle here that tells you maybe there is a small turnaround in the play. And from an awesome indicator perspective, right now it's bearish. You see red candles here becoming bigger and bigger, but it turned bearish back somewhere here. Now it's still bearish, but you could see a turnaround. If you compare it to previous bearishness, here it was bearish little bit, and then it turned around. So you could see something along the same lines. From an accumulation distribution perspective, as you see here, it's really at the accumulation phase. I think people are trying to buy these companies slowly, and it's flat right now. It might trend higher as you go forward. So right now, people are accumulating the stock here, so it may be okay for us to slowly accumulate. And now let's go into option chain here. What option market is telling about this company, Palantir Technologies? So stock is around $21, which puts us into $21 strike price. This is 120 days, 124 days out, November expiration, as you can see here. And if you look at the call open interest here, there is a lot of open interest at 22, 23, 24. That tells you a lot of people are really, betting this stock will go up. And you can see here one of the highest open interest here at $30. A lot of people are betting this company can even go beyond $30. And if you look at the put side here, there is also a good amount of volume here, but probably not as high as call open interest. So we'll go into daily option statistics in a minute that compares the call volume and put volume. So if you see here, we got total contracts on the call side 142,000, and we got total puts 70,000. That tells you put call ratio is about 0.4. More calls are being bought than puts, which is a good indication. That's a bullish signal. So with that, let's jump into Palantir's quarterly report. They had the quarterly earnings back on May 11th, month and a half down, earlier. And as you can see here, company really inline earnings per share, and they beat the revenue estimate by $8.93 million. And despite of this revenue beat, stock pulls back, even though they gave you upside sales guidance. And if you look at the highlights here, total revenue grew 49% year over year. That's a good thing. And US commercial grew 72%. This is where they're trying to diversify away from government into commercial. I think they're doing it nicely. And US government revenue grew 83% year over year. They're still strong in the US government. And cash flow is really 117 million. It's really growing up 404 million year over year. So they are really improving their cash flow situation, which is really good. And for Q2 2021, they expect the revenue growth of 43%. That's really good. They're giving a good guidance here. And for the full year of 2021, they're basically anticipating a cash flow in excess of 150 million. That's good. And they're also expecting annual revenue growth of 30% or greater from 2021 through 2025. So that tells you, company really knows what will happen, like 4 years out from now. The reason company knows what's going to happen 4 years out, this company has got a lot of long-term contracts. When a US government or big company goes to Palantir for their technology, it's typically a long-term commitment. That's why these folks know they have a revenue growth all the way to 2025. That's a very good indication here. So if you look at the insider trading here, the flamboyant CEO that we talked about, Mr. Karp, he has been selling a lot of the stocks. As you can see here, he sold 14 million worth here, again 14 million worth over here, 15 million worth here. So he had been busy selling his own shares. That's really putting some pressure on the company. And also Kathy Wood, she also sold some stock in this company. So, many times, insiders sell the shares once in a while, but I feel in this situation, probably it's a little bit on the higher side, something to watch out for. But, I'm not too much alarmed, but I'm cautious that CEO is selling so much of the shares. And as you see here, right now, insider transactions 64.9%. Institutions own pretty good chunk here. Institutions are also buying slowly. So with that, let's go in and see what should we do now. Palantir has got lucrative long-term government contracts, and they are also diversifying away into commercial. And stock is a bit pricey from a valuation perspective. CEO is selling a lot of shares, and also Kathy Wood, from ARK Investments, she also sold around 18 million worth shares. Company has got a lot of cash on their balance sheet, $2.3 billion, and very low debt. And they have resources to keep investing in their product and make it cutting edge. And right now chart is ugly. You've seen the DMI indicator flashing. It's a bearish territory right now. Companies diversifying from government business to commercial business with their SaaS product. And commercial grew 72%, US government revenue grew 83%, cash flow is up. So these are all great numbers here. And I expect short-term weakness here as more and more shares are being available because CEO sold some share, Kathy Wood also sold some share. So I expect a little bit temporary short-term weakness here, but from a medium to long term, it's a solid play. And I'm going to buy this company on pullbacks, and I think it will do well in the long term. If you can, if you can withstand some temporary pain, I can see very good growth in the future. So with that, thank you very much. Happy trading and investing.